Hey guys, welcome back to my HTML5 website design tutorial. Today we're going to be learning the basics of HTML. And if you recall, HTML is a markup language, which consists of directions that tell the browser software and other agents such as mobile phones how to display and manage a web document. HTML is a set of markup symbols or codes placed in a file that is intended for display on a web page. And HTML5 is the newest version of HTML. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and the first thing we need to do is get our environment set up. So I'm going to use Komodo Edit text editor, but first thing I recommend we do is go ahead and create a new folder, and we're going to rename this HTML. So this is where we're going to put all of our HTML files at. Our pictures, our CSS, everything is going to go in here to keep things simple. So I'm going to go ahead and open up Komodo Edit and create a new file, and you could be using Notepad++ or Sublime Text, Text Wrangler, whatever you want. So I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to save this file as index.html, and all files. I'm going to save it to the desktop. Let's see here. Awesome. Okay, so that's done. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing we need to talk about is the document type definition. There are multiple versions of HTML and XHTML, and the W3C recommends identifying the type of markup language used in a web document with a document type definition. So we're going to use a doc type statement, which is what it's commonly called, at the top of our HTML5 page. And it's as simple as that. That's all you got to type. And then below that, we're going to start our opening and closing HTML tags. And you'll notice everything in between those tags is what's going to be processed by the web browser. Okay? So this is the beginning and end of our HTML code. And if you notice, my text editor automatically creates a closing tag, which is very helpful and saves a lot of time. So I recommend getting, a higher end text editor like Komodo Edit. It's free. It's not difficult to use. As you could see, I just opened it up, and you can mess around with the settings and things like that, but I'm happy with what I have it at for now. So now that we have the opening and closing HTML tags, we're going to add a head, meta, title, and body tags, which every HTML file needs to have. There's head, title, there's head, title, awesome. So you notice I kind of put too many spaces here. You actually want this beginning part to be a little closed. So underneath all of this, we're going to have our body tags. And this is where the bulk of our website goes. All the content information, our navigation, our footer, everything like that is going to go within these two body tags. Elements that are located in the head section include the title of the web page, meta tags that describe the document, such as the character encoding used and information that may be accessed by search engines, and references to scripts and styles. Many of these features do not show directly on the web page. The head element contains the head section, which begins with the head tag and closed head tag. You will always code at least two other elements in the head section, a title element and a meta element. In the first element in the head section, the title element configures the text that will appear in the title bar of the browser window. The text between title and closed title tags is called the title of the web page and is accessed when web pages are bookmarked and printed. The meta element describes a characteristic of a web page, such as the character encoding. Character encoding is the internal representation of letters, numbers, and symbols in a file, such as a web page or other file that is stored on a computer and may be transmitted over the internet. The body section contains text and elements that display directly on the web page in the browser viewport. The purpose of the body section is to configure the contents of the web page. The body element contains the body section, which begins with the body tag and ends with the closing body tag. You will spend most of your time writing code in the body of the web page. If you type text into the body section, it will appear directly on the web page. So we're going to go ahead and do a little example here. And if you notice, I already messed up. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, get this out of the way. So it's good practice. It's good practice to have the two titles right there and the meta tags underneath those. Okay, so my first HTML5 web page. So that's going to be our title. And in the body, I'm just going to simply print hello world. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save this. And we're going to preview this in a browser. So this is a little trick that I have with my editor. I could actually preview things in the editor. But if you don't have this, let's say you're using Notepad, it's very simple. All you got to do is open the HTML file and it will open in your default browser, which mine is Safari. So there you go, hello world. And if I was wanting to open it with Opera, I can open it up with Opera. And as you can see, Opera is a little bit different than Safari. Opera, it has the title right here on the tab, and Safari doesn't do that. But as you can see, mine work in two different browsers, Opera and Safari. So that tells me it's working good so far. Everyone usually writes hello world in their first language, whether it's programming language or whatever. It's just for good luck. It's something programmers usually do. So I'm going to put this back in my HTML folder. There it is. Okay, and go back to the text editor. Whoops. And one thing I forgot to mention is you definitely want to make sure that you're testing your code in all major browsers. That's Internet Explorer, Firefox, Safari, Opera, and there's websites you can go to where you can paste your code into the website and it will check it through those browsers for you. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but for our purposes, you could just use one browser for now. Just make sure that it's working with what we're typing. You also want to make sure that you're saving your file. So I do shortcuts on my keyboard. So like on the Mac, it'd be Command Save. So you just click this and Command Save, or you can go to File and then Save. So you need to make sure you save your file before you open it, and you need to make sure it's in the right folder and the right path. So that if it's not working, I guarantee you one of those two things is wrong, or your code is wrong somewhere. So just make sure to take a good look at your code. It'll work, I promise. Alrighty, so the next thing we're going to talk about is heading elements. Heading elements are organized into 6 levels, H1 through H6. The text contained within a heading element is rendered as a block of text by the browser, referred to as block display, and displays within empty spaces, sometimes called white space, above and below the text. The size of the text is largest for H1, called the heading 1 tag, and smallest for H6, called the heading 6 tag. Depending on the font being used, more font sizes in the next video we're going to be talking about. When we work with CSS, heading elements are used to help you organize content. So it's really important for search engine optimization. Search engines look at your H1 tags, your H2 tags, which would be headings, subheadings, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and do some practice ones here. So we're going to get rid of this. So it's simple H1. Oops. H1. And I'm actually going to, it's good to keep these next to each other just for the sake of simplicity. H2. H5, and H6. So I'm going to write hello world in each one of these, and we're going to see how they change. Okay, so I have hello world written in all of the heading elements, H1 through H6. And so I'm going to save the file, and then I'm going to open it in Opera. Preview. And this is what it looks like in Opera. So as you can see, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. And you notice the font's all the same. We're going to change the font color, the background color, things like that with CSS, which is cascading style sheets. So for SEO purposes, the search engine will look at your keywords in your H1, your keywords in your H2, the content below these. You know, you might even have subheadings, get into H3, H4. So typically, people don't use H6, H5. If you have a very large website with a lot of, educational information or something like that, you might utilize these, but mostly people use H1, H2, sometimes H3. So that's how it usually goes. So we're going to continue to the next part, which we're going to talk about the paragraph element. And paragraph elements are used to group a sentence and sections of text together. So it is simply P. And good practice is to never try not to write text just, randomly in the body. That's not in any kind of group of tags. So usually always text will at least be in a paragraph element. And this leaves a space above and below the text. So if we write hello world and we just get some filler text in there just to see what it looks like. I'm just going to print some stuff here. And as you can see, with HTML, it doesn't matter where this stuff is. It could be all next to each other, or I could hit enter, and like I just did there. I did this, for example. It doesn't matter where this stuff is. There's no formatting in HTML. As long as it's in between these two tags, it works. Okay, so like right here, I could have went like that. And watch, it's going to look exactly the same. So I'm going to do Command Save. I'm going to open this in Opera, and I'm going to go ahead and make it easy and just click Remember. So you see how these are the same? Even though I did Enter for this H4, it's still the same. And all these are next to each other, even though I hit Enter several times. So that's worth noting as well. So far, we've went over the doc type, which is HTML, the opening HTML tag, and the closing HTML tag. Opening body, closing body, and the head tag, and within there the title. It's good to keep the title tags next to each other, and then the one meta tag that we have right now, which is simply our character encoding. So then we went over all of the heading elements and the paragraph element. So that's what we've done so far. And the next thing I'm going to show you is the line break element, and I would try to stay away from this as much as you possibly can, because we're going to use CSS for most things like this. But a line break element is simply a BR, no closing tag, just a one simple tag on its own. So we're going to go ahead, and as you can see, it gives a line break. We'll do 2 of them just to make it more predominant. And there we go. There's 2 spaces right there. So that's line break. So try to stay away from it. It's worth showing you real quick. Okay, and so the next tag, I'm going to clean this stuff up right here. The next tag is the block quote element. And the block quote element is simply something that is reserved for when you quote text. It's probably not something you're going to use a whole lot. So if I write hello world, Command Save, and we view this. This is what block quote looks like. It indents everything like that. And if we were to, continue, let's continue, make it longer so we can see what it looks like over several different lines. And what I'm doing right here is just filler content. You know, some people, they get filler content from the web. You could have stuff auto-generated, but like right now I don't have any content to share. So that's why I'm just copying and pasting a bunch of random words. Just to show you if this was content in text, this is where it would be placed. So this is Hello World that I just did for block quote. And as you could see, it's indented away from everything. So here's my paragraph. Here is the block quote. And you don't want to use block quote to just indent. You want to only use it for when you're quoting, because part of the semantic web that W3C recommends is that everyone does things the same way. So then the web can be better for developers and web browsers. Everyone can work together and make it a better experience for everyone. So that's part of the recommendations. Okay, so now we're going to go over some phrase elements. And so I'm going to go ahead and make a new paragraph. Okay, get some space here. All right, the first one I'm going to talk about is bold text. And then the next one is italicized text. Oops. Actually, that's emphasized text. Italicized text would be that's italicized. And that's strong. And there's some other ones too, but you're not going to really use them much. And you could simply look up phrase elements for HTML5 and you can find those, but these are the ones that you'll see most often. And as you can see, we have bold, emphasized text, italicized text, and they look really same. This is strong text. Most browsers actually display these two exactly the same and these two exactly the same, but they actually are different tags. So I thought I would just show that real quick. And yeah, so you guys have seen those, so we're good on those. All right, now it's time to talk about lists. And lists are super important in HTML. The first list we're going to talk about is an unordered list. And lists are used on web pages to organize information. So when you're writing for the web, headings, short paragraphs, and lists make your pages clear and easy to read. HTML can be used to create these three types of lists. There is description list, ordered list, and unordered list. So this section focuses on the unordered list. So we're going to go ahead and make a little example right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of everything we got, and we're going to make a little list. Okay, awesome. So I just made a simple little list here. It doesn't really matter what content you put in there. I just found some example content to put. And as you can notice, I copy and paste a lot, and that just saves time. I mean, there's really no purpose in typing up everything. But when you're learning, maybe it does help you to type up everything. So maybe you should do that when you're learning. So we're going to go ahead and save this and view it. And as you can see, here's my unordered list. It's just bullet points right here. Popular web servers, my H1, and there's my list. Simple as that. Now, I do want to show you one thing real quick. And if you wanted to change the bullet points to like a square, for instance, you would just type in type equals square. And now they're squares. And you can change that to a, the default is a disk, which is a circle. And you can also change it to a circle, like a circle with nothing inside of it. So we'll do that real quick, just so you can see. Command save. Yeah, and each time, you know, I click this up here right before I'm hitting command save. You guys don't see that, but remember, I'm actually saving the file every time. So just remember to keep hitting command save every time before you test your web page. Okay, now I'm going to show you an ordered list. So you simply change UL, you change UL to OL. Command save. And there you go. Now that's an ordered. And you could also change these from 1, 2, 3 to Roman numerals to ABC, lowercase or uppercase. And you do it the same way. You would do OL, type equals, in quotation marks, capital A, or type equals, in quotation marks, uppercase I for Roman numerals. So you do that same thing the way I showed you with the shapes for the unordered list. All right, so the next type of list we're going to go over is called a description list. And I'm going to make a sample one right here. So you start these with DL, get some space in there, and then you're going to have DT, and then let's see, TCP, and then after that you're going to have DD, and this is going to be your information. So transmission control protocol. You know, if I was talking about TCP, given a definition of it, but for now let's just get some filler content in there. Good to hit enter. Okay, so we're back over here, and make sure that, yep, my closing tag. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this and see what it looks like. So sample description list, here is what I put in my DT tags, and then here's what's in my DD tags. So if I were to copy this, let's say 1 is going to be IP. Let's say I'm, you know, making a description of networking terms or something. Definition of networking terms, FTP. Okay. And there we go. So let's imagine that this text describes TCP, this text describes IP and FTP. It doesn't matter what this content it could be. You know, it could be anything, right? So this is what it looks like. This is the example of the description list. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is special characters. And you have to use special codes to represent these characters in HTML. And some common ones would be quotation marks, the copyright symbol, the ampersand, non-breaking space, vertical bar, things like that. And you could Google those because you're more than likely not going to remember them. But let's go ahead and do a sample one, which is going to be a common one, which is a copyright symbol. So to do the copyright symbol, you're going to do and copy semicolon. So we're going to do command save or control save if you're on Windows, and there it is. You see that little thing right there? That is the copyright symbol. Okay, and I'm going to talk about one more element, and then we're going to start doing a practice website. So the last element I'm going to talk about is the div element. And this element configures a structural block or division on a web page with an empty space above and below. A div element begins with an opening div tag and ends with a closing div tag. Use a div element when you need to format an area of a web page, such as a logo, navigation, or footer area. So we're going to go ahead and make an HTML sample website, and then we're going to add CSS to it in the next video. So we're going to do a very common example that a lot of educational institutions do. It's called Trillium Media Design. That's going to be our title, and then we're going to I'm going to bump this up one more. Cool. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to code the H1 tag. It's going to say Trillium Media Design. And then after that, we're going to use divs for the first time. So we're going to type in home. This is going to be a special little symbol you'll see in a second. And I'm actually going to have these divs in one line like this, just to make this a little bit easier. So we're going to go ahead and save and see what we got so far. That special little symbol I was talking about right here is a non-breaking space. What that does is prevent the space on a new line from happening when you don't want it to. So that's what we got so far. So far so good. Now we're going to do an H2 tag. New media and web design. Awesome. Then we're going to have a little paragraph tag, and we're going to write a little bit about it. Alright, so I wrote a little bit about the site, and then underneath we're going to have another H2 describing a little bit more. Meeting your business needs. So as you can see, this is a media design website. And then we're going to have another paragraph tag talking a little bit more about it. Okay, great. So this is a little bit older example if you can't tell. So I'm going to have another little div here. And this section is going to be for our footer. So we're going to have small copyright and copy 2012 your name here. So you can put your name there, and that's essentially what we got so far. So we're going to go ahead and command save, control save, and this is what it looks like. So the way we're setting up this website is this is going to be the header, okay, the header, the banner. Eventually we're going to get some artwork up here. This is our navigation, right? So these are going to be links. And then here is kind of our home page. It kind of tells a little bit about the company. And then here's our footer. And this is how pretty much every website in today's world is set up. You know, you got a header, a navigation, a content area, and a footer. And sometimes people have their navigation on the left side, okay? And we're going to be going over stuff like that a little bit later. So now the next tag we're going to be talking about is called the anchor tag. And the anchor or anchor element, and the tag would be, the A enclosing A. So use the anchor element to specify a hyperlink, often referred to as a link, to another web page or file that you want to display. Each anchor element begins with an A tag and ends with a closing A tag. The opening and closing anchor tags surround text to click to perform the hyperlink. Use the href attribute to configure the hyperlink reference, which identifies the name and location of the file to access. So we're going to go ahead and do a little practice one real quick right here at the bottom of this. Okay, so ahref equals ag google.com. Okay. This website is Google. So we're going to go ahead and save that. Whoops. This website is Google. Let's see if it works. And it does. So I just linked to Google, and that's how you link to things. And there's two types of linking. You have absolute hyperlinks, which is referencing an actual website address. And then there is relative hyperlinks, which would reference another one of my files that is together. So I'm going to have index.html is like your main HTML homepage file. Everything is based around that. Okay. So if I have a contact page, which would be another contact file. So if we open this up, we're going to make another HTML file for contact. Okay. So I could actually put in here. Whoop, I don't want to get rid of those quotations. I could put in here contact.html and save this. Now let's make a new file. File, save as, and I'm going to save this in, okay, desktop is fine for now. You know, actually, the best thing to do with this, if I could find my folder, here it is. Cool. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick if you have a Mac. The best thing to do is File, Save As, All Files, and then drag this folder right here. There you go. Great. So let's go ahead and copy all this in here, and we can get rid of all of this. And hello, this is my contact page. Okay, so Command Save. We're going to open it and see if it works. Remember. Awesome. Hello, this is my contact page. Hello, this is my contact page. Great. So if we're here, Command Save, we're going to open this up. Whoops, what happened? Let's see here. Oh, I didn't change this. So I'm going to put contact. When I click contact, see, it brings me to my other HTML file. You see, I'm at index.html, and I click my link, and it brings me to my contact. Why is okay, so if we look at our navigation, we have a home, which is our index, and we have a contact, which we just made. So now we need a services. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly make a services HTML. It's a file. Whoops. New file. File, save as, services.html, all files. There we go. Now it remembers. Great. Okay, so now we have an HTML file for each one of our navigation links, which is good. So before we finish this little example, I want to show you something super quick that I think would really help everybody. Okay, so this is what I wanted to show you. This is a markup validation service, and you can check the markup of your documents to make sure that it's working, everything's working fine. So you could either do it by a document that's online, but for us, we're gonna have to upload one because we're saving all these locally. We don't have them on a web server. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose my file. HTML. Let's check this one. So I'm going to open it and click check. Document checking completed. No errors or warnings to show. So there you go. And you could check all your HTML, XHTML web documents right here. And this is something good to do. You know, it's not always necessary. And sometimes it might say you have a mistake when you really don't. But just so you know that you have something like this, it's good to know that you have it. Okay, guys, so we're going to go ahead and finish this little example here. We're going to use our links, our A tag, to fix all these right here. So we're going to do, this is going to be, well, if we open this one up, we actually don't need to go to it, but we're going to do this anyways. We're going to do index.html, and this is actually going to say home. Get rid of that. And then right here, we're going to paste again. And this is going to be services.html. And it's going to say services. And we're going to get rid of that. And contact. And contact was already there because that was the example I used down here. So if you're confused on what we just did, we essentially took, it used to just say home, the non-breaking space, sign here, services, non-breaking space, contact. And then what I just did is I made each one of these a link to another HTML file in our page, which is going to make up our navigation. So if you need to rewind the video and watch it again, that's no problem. So here we go. If we click services, it brings us to services. And the problem is the other web pages don't have anything yet. So we're going to be working on that in the future. But if I click contact, it brings me to the contact page. The home keeps me there. So all of these should have the navigation, as you can see. So we're going to go ahead and put the navigation, the basic navigation, on all of our pages. So they all look similar. So save. But I'm going to get rid of this H2 all the way down to here. They should all have the footer, the navigation, and the header. Every single page should have that. So I'm going to get rid of everything that's not, I'm going to get rid of that main content box with everything except for the footer, navigation, and header. So then if we view this again, oops, I'll just go back to this one. Okay, there we go. You see, now this is services, this is contact, this is the home, the index, this is our navigation. That is how it's done. So within an hour, we made our own web page, several web pages with navigation and a footer. Copyright, here's your content, that's where it would go. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys this real quick. This is called a wireframe, and this is essentially what your divs do. They separate different pieces of code, so then when you use your styling, you can move them around because they're grouped together. So this is a basic one. This is what we have except for the sidebar. We have our header, our navigation, our content, and our footer, and everything is sectioned away. And as we get more advanced, we're eventually going to have a sidebar. One last thing I wanted to mention before I close up this video is the HTML5 structural elements. So HTML5 introduced a number of semantic structural elements that you could use to configure areas on a web page. These new block display elements are not intended to completely replace the div element, but are intended to be used along with div and other elements to structure web page documents. Okay, and you learn more about divs as you continue through this series and learn more about CSS. But I wanted to show you this now. So this is a sample HTML5 document. And we just learned basic HTML, HTML5 being the newest version of HTML, and they've added some new things. So here is that same, more or less, Trillium media design example we've been working on with some changes, and I'm going to show you those now. So the first one is the header element instead of that H1 tag that we used to have. This contains the headings of either a web page document or an area in the document, such as a section or article, and we'll get into that in a moment. So this is the header. So just know that you can include everything in the header. They have a nav tag called nav, okay? NAV, open and close, right here. And then they have an article. And the article tag contains an independent entry, such as a blog posting, comment, or news article that could stand on its own. The section element contains a section of the document, such as a chapter or topic. Okay? And you'll learn more about this as we continue, just so you see it and you're familiar with it. And then they have a footer as well. So open and close footer for the footer. So it's just a few minor changes, just so you've seen them and just so you know what they are.
Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for future video notifications. Feel free to donate by clicking the PayPal donation link below in the description. Visit our website at freecomputerhelp.net for programming tips, installation guides, and more.